Okay, so I want you to join me in a really specific kind of universal moment of modern frustration.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Picture yourself, you're right in the middle of a perfect day. Maybe you're on vacation, standing on some chaotic, colorful street corner in a new city.
Right.
Or maybe you're just navigating a packed rush hour train platform. Your
Yeah.
hands are full, you've got travel documents, a luggage handle, maybe a camera, maybe a steaming cup of coffee. You are completely locked into the physical world around you.
A slow, acknowledging laugh. Yeah, the scenario of maximum human commitment. Every single sensory input is devoted to what you're doing. You're in the flow.
You are in the flow, and then the world intervenes. You need one single piece of digital information.
Ah, yes.
It could be the address of the restaurant, a quick check of the time, or a text from a colleague changing a meeting. You need that data now.
And this is where the great modern ritual,
Yeah.
the surrender, begins.
Tell me about the surrender, because it's not just a minor thing. It's this mandatory, jarring disengagement from reality.
It's the immediate halt. Everything just fades to a blur, and your entire energy shifts to the awkward logistics of getting to the phone.
Ah, yeah.
If you're holding that coffee, you do the chin tuck maneuver. If you're carrying a heavy bag, you do the knee clamp. Then comes the frantic fumble, the unlocking, the bright glare of the screen.
Yeah.
And for a few critical seconds, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're floating in this digital ether, completely oblivious to the person you're blocking or the person who just smiled at you or the important landmark you're literally standing right next to.
That friction, that's the word. That trade-off between reality and information. That's the price we've been paying for, almost 2 decades now?
I just accepted it.
We accepted it, but it constantly breaks our focus. That, to me, is the old way. But now, imagine that same moment, hands full, focus high, the message arrives, the navigation arrow is needed.
Okay, I'm there. Hands are committed.
Instead of stopping, instead of digging, instead of doing the clumsy chin tuck,
Yeah.
the information you need just appears. It's not blocking your view of the street. It's this subtle digital ghost, kind of translucent and perfectly placed in your lower periphery, right on the lens of your glasses.
Wow.
You register the arrow, confirm the message, and you keep walking. You never once break eye contact with the physical world.
Seamless, immediate. You called it almost psychic, and that's exactly the feeling that this, ambient information tech is striving for. That feeling of flow you described, that's the high-stakes goal. We are constantly looking for ways to get digital context into our lives without being yanked out of reality.
And that's exactly what we're doing today. We are undertaking a deep dive into the very real technology making this happen. Meta's newest iteration of smart glasses, the Ray-Ban display glasses, and the new vision interface they introduce.
This is a huge shift.
It is. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're moving tech from the pocket, where it's, optional, to the face, where it is literally integrated into how we see the world. But before we celebrate the breakthrough, we have to talk about the antagonist that made this whole invention necessary. We have to talk about the villain.
The villain.
I like it. The true villain in this story, the one forcing us into that hunched-over posture of perpetual distraction, is the smartphone screen itself.
It is.
It's brilliant, it's powerful, but its whole interaction model is fundamentally tyrannical. It's the gatekeeper to everything, and getting through that gate requires this physical and cognitive trade-off.
Yeah, we basically hit peak efficiency with the flat glass slab, but that efficiency comes at the price of being present.
Exactly.
The tyranny of the rectangle, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The villain isn't the data itself, it's the required mechanism of interaction. And this isn't a new problem. For years, tech companies have been chasing this dream of ambient computing, information that is just there when you need it and gone when you don't. But every attempt has run into these two huge brick walls, the technical limits and, maybe more importantly, social rejection.
Okay, let's look at the history here, because this isn't Meta's first try, and it's definitely not the industry's. When we think of early attempts at putting a computer on your face, there is one ghost that still haunts the room.
Oh, you mean Google Glass?
I mean Google Glass. It was pioneering, it proved the technical idea was possible, but it failed so spectacularly at the social contract.
It really did. Google Glass, launched, a decade ago, was functional, but it was so deeply flawed in its execution.
How so?
Well, technically it was too bulky, the battery life was a joke, and the screen positioned above the eye was super intrusive. But the main issue, the thing that set the stakes for every device that came after, was that social hurdle. It wasn't discreet.
Not at all.
It just screamed, "I am recording you." People wearing them were immediately called glassholes, and the public backlash over this perceived constant surveillance was instant and, frankly, overwhelming.
That's such a critical piece of context. Google Glass was a tech device that looked like a tech device. It looked alien, and it made everyone paranoid. So that set the stage for Meta's whole approach now.
Yeah, they had to get the tech right without the social alienation.
Which brings us to their first big attempt in this specific form factor, the Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses from 2023.
The foundational step.
Yes, and they achieved that crucial social goal. They looked, well, pretty normal. You could wear them in public and mostly blend in.
But what were the limitations? In the journey from that 2023 model to this new display model, what was the frustrating gap?
So the 2023 model was basically a very sophisticated head-mounted camera and audio device. It was great for hands-free photos and videos, and the open-ear audio for music and calls was cool.
And you could reply to messages, but only with your voice.
Right, only through voice command. Crucially, it was. It was deaf and blind to visual information. It didn't show you anything. If you wanted to see the photo you just took, or check the weather, or read a text,
you were immediately forced to look down at your phone again.
So it solved the hands-free capture problem and the hands-free audio problem, but it did nothing to fix the hands-free visual information problem. It was still chained to the tyranny of the phone screen for any real data.
Precisely. And that functional gap is what defined the need for this new device. The stakes here are way higher than just a product upgrade. Meta has been very clear that this is about a transition they call face computing.
Face computing. That sounds like the title of a very serious, very future-y white paper. How do we break that down?
Think of it this way. For decades, computing has been based on the hand, right? The keyboard, the mouse, the touchscreen.
Right.
Face computing is the shift where the main interface moves from that flat surface in your hand to your natural ambient field of vision. The ultimate destination of this whole journey is full augmented reality, or AR glasses that can, render a 3D hologram of a friend standing next to you, or let you design a virtual bookshelf right on top of your real wall.
Holographic world takeovers.
Exactly. But we are a long, long way from a pair of sleek Ray-Bans being able to handle the processing power and battery required for all-day true AR. That kind of tech requires massive optical complexity, and it generates a lot of heat.
So if full AR is the final destination, what is this new Ray-Ban display model?
It is explicitly an intermediate step. It's bridging the gap. It takes a socially acceptable, normal-looking design they perfected in 2023 and integrates the absolute minimal, most critical piece of visual data delivery.
Right.
It's moving from just a camera and audio device to a basic functional vision interface. A precursor to AR that focuses on peripheral data, not a full environmental overlay. It's the proof of concept that you can deliver visual information subtly.
Okay, this is where my curiosity is really piquing. How do they do that? How do you get that minimal data delivery without turning a sleek lens into a visible, bulky screen? You said it's discrete. Wait, hold on. I have to challenge this right away.
Go for it.
If you put a screen in a regular piece of glass, it's going to look huge and it's going to block my vision. You're telling me they put a whole visual screen into one tiny lens without it screaming, "I'm a screen!" That seems like an unbelievable feat of optical engineering.
It is an immense feat, and that is the cornerstone of this whole thing, the technological quest itself.
Yeah.
They had to solve the optical problem before they could even think about solving the control problem.
So this is where we get into the core tech solution. The quest was kind of twofold. First, shrinking the display into the lens, and second, figuring out how to control it without touchscreens or bulky remotes. They needed a new input language, one that actually worked in a hands-free world.
Absolutely. The control system is useless if you have to look ridiculous or break your flow to use it. If I have to tap the side of my head 6 times, I might as well just use my phone.
Totally.
The input needs to move from these obvious movements to something far more subtle, something almost invisible to someone watching you.
Okay, let's start with the display itself. The source material reveals the small screen is discreetly embedded into the right lens. Just the right one. Why only one? Why the asymmetry?
Well, that choice is fascinating, and it's also really pragmatic from a technical standpoint. You're dealing with intense power constraints, heat management, and the need to keep the design sleek.
Right.
If you tried to project a display onto both lenses, you'd double the power consumption, you'd significantly increase the heat right next to your temple, and you'd make the whole device heavier.
So the single lens is a solution to a design constraint. But what is the tech that lets them project info onto a regular lens without it looking like a giant phone screen taped to the inside?
This is where the engineering gets really deep. They're not using standard light-up screens. They're likely using what's known as waveguide optics.
Waveguide Optics.
Yeah. Essentially, they take a tiny, high-resolution micro-LED projector, it might be no bigger than a grain of rice, and embed it in the frame near your temple. This projector beams the image into a specialized transparent lens called a waveguide.
Ah, the waveguide. So the glass isn't just clear, it's engineered to be a light transport system.
Exactly. The waveguide then uses these microscopic structures. Think of them like incredibly tiny, almost invisible mirrors etched right into the glass to diffract or bounce the light internally.
Okay.
It guides those light waves straight into the user's eye, but only the user can see it. To anyone else looking at you, the lens just looks normal. It's an optical trick. It creates a small peripheral information layer without blocking your view of the real world.
It's the difference between looking at a notification on a screen and having the notification appear like a ghostly reflection on a window pane.
That distinction is absolutely key.
Okay, so now we know how it displays information. What information is actually pushed to this subtle little digital ghost dashboard?
They prioritize immediate, actionable data. So notifications and messages are the obvious ones. It gets rid of the phone check for quick communication.
Sure.
Navigation guidance, literal arrows overlaid on the street in front of you, is massive for getting around a city. You're no longer stopping to look at a tiny map. The directions are part of your forward movement.
I gotta challenge you on that navigation point, though. If I'm driving or cycling, is having data flashing in my periphery potentially more distracting than just pulling over to check my phone? It feels like we're trading one kind of friction for another, like cognitive load.
That is a critical question.
Yes,
And the key here is the peripheral placement and the minimal nature of the data. It's not a full map. It's just an arrow and maybe a distance number.
Okay.
Unlike a phone, which demands your full foveal focus, this is designed to be registered quickly, kind of like how you glance at a speedometer while driving.
Yeah.
It's ambient input, not demanding interaction.
Right.
And there's one piece of content that shows the real power of this vision integration, live translations.
Well, wait, let's stop on that. Live translation appearing on the physical thing I'm looking at? How does that even work in practice?
Okay, imagine standing in a restaurant in a foreign country, looking at a menu written in a language you don't understand.
Been there.
The 12-megapixel camera and the processor recognize the text, they translate it instantly, and then they project the translated words, overlaid perfectly onto the physical menu text right there in your lens.
That's transformative.
Yeah.
That moves way beyond simple communication and into instant personalized environmental comprehension.
It is.
That just breaks down language barriers in a way that holding a translation app up to a sign where you're looking at a screen of a sign, not the sign itself, never ever could. This is a game changer for travel and international business.
It creates a sense of instant fluency with the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said, all that clever display and translation power is useless if you have to scream at your glasses or tap them awkwardly to control it.
Exactly. I don't want to be the person on the train yelling, "Glasses, switch off the translation overlay." I want to just think that.
And that, my friend, is the breakthrough tool, the meta-neural band.
The neural band. It sounds like a secret weapon in a spy movie. How did they go from taps and voice commands to reading your intent?
So the engineers realized that the human body is constantly generating electrical signals related to movement, even when we aren't really moving. When you decide to do something like click a mouse or dismiss a notification, your brain sends an electrical signal down to the muscle group in your forearm and hand before your fingers even twitch.
So the wristband is basically an incredibly sensitive eavesdropper on my nervous system.
It is. It uses advanced electromyography or EMG sensing. It measures the tiny electrical impulses, often just microvolts, that your muscles generate as they contract or even just prepare to contract. It's interpreting the electrical language of your nerves and muscles. The neural band's job is to convert these microscopic signals created during the formation of muscle movements, your silent intent, into commands to control the screen on the glasses.
Okay, hold on. This is getting pretty technical. We need an analogy here. Let's do a sports one. That'll work.
Perfect. Think about a high-level tennis player serving. The whole motion is complex, right? It involves the shoulder, the arm, the wrist. But before the player executes that massive physical action, their muscles subtly tense up in a specific pattern, preparing for the serve.
So if I were wearing the neural band, instead of it reading the big physical movement of the serve itself, it's reading the the preparatory twitch, the microsignal of my forearm muscles getting ready to rotate the wrist the split second before the action.
Yes, exactly. Now translate that to digital control. Instead of forcing you to physically tap the side of the glasses or swipe your arm in the air, you simply intend to twitch your index finger or your wrist. The band registers that near imperceptible electrical hum of the muscle preparing for that action. And that signal, not the physical movement, sends the command. Scroll up or accept the call.
That is incredible. It's translating pre-action intention into digital action. It minimizes the user's effort to the point where it's almost invisible, which solves that whole social problem of input.
Right.
You can keep your coffee in one hand, your pastries in the other, twitch your finger slightly, and dismiss the notification without anyone even noticing.
And this is why the neural band is the actual key to face computing. The screen is a clever display, but the neural band is the fundamental new interface language. It lets the computer on your face be controlled without demanding visible or awkward input. It moves the interface from the skin to the muscle signals underneath it.
But wait, I have to be the curious friend again and challenge the reliability. How reliable is that twitch detection? What if I'm just, I don't know, drumming my fingers nervously during a meeting, or if I accidentally brush my leg? Is the computer going to start accepting calls and launching apps because I'm fidgeting?
That's the core engineering challenge they have to nail. The system needs to be trained, using machine learning, to tell the difference between an intentional specific muscle preparation, which might be a short, distinct signal, and just general muscle noise, like nervousness or walking. Early EMG tech really struggled with noise. The success of the neural band completely hinges on its ability to isolate those incredibly faint, deliberate signals from the electrical chaos of the rest of the body. If it's too sensitive, it's just frustrating. If it's not sensitive enough, well, we're back to yelling at our glasses.
So the accuracy of the neural band's algorithms is the ultimate deciding factor on whether this whole input method moves from a theoretical breakthrough to, practical daily use. That makes perfect sense. The success of the display depends on the success of the controller.
100%.
That seamless control, powered by the intent-reading neural band, it really does feel like the final piece of the puzzle. Okay, so now let's look under the hood. The hardware blueprint that makes this whole subtle system robust enough to handle translations, capturing, and high-fidelity audio. The tech packed into this little frame has got to be substantial.
Oh, it is. The hardware needs to be powerful enough to support that discrete display, the 6 hours of battery life, the advanced audio, and have the ability to eventually integrate AR functions later on.
Let's start with the visual capturing side. We mentioned the camera is forward-thinking.
Absolutely. The glasses feature a robust 12-megapixel camera. Now, 12MP is great for high-quality photos and videos, which is what most people use it for today. But the real strategic importance of that resolution is for future AR functionality.
What do you mean?
To accurately place a virtual object, a hologram, onto the real world and have it stay stable as you move, the computer needs to map the environment precisely.
So the 12MP isn't just about taking pretty pictures. It's about the device accurately understanding its spatial relationship to the world around it. It's environment mapping.
Exactly. It creates a high-fidelity digital twin of the environment. That data is what allows future AR software to anchor digital content properly. It's the groundwork for seeing virtual furniture that doesn't slide around when you turn your head.
And speaking of movement and environment, we need to talk about sound. If the goal is seamless integration and safety, you can't just block out the world. So how do they manage high-quality audio without sealing off your ear?
That's the open-ear audio system. It uses these carefully placed speakers inside the arm of the glasses, and they direct sound waves precisely toward the user's ear canal.
And the benefit there. Why is open ear a non-negotiable feature for daily wearable tech, especially compared to something like AirPods?
Because of situational awareness and safety. When you are navigating city traffic or hiking a trail or talking to a colleague, you have to hear ambient sounds. An open-ear system makes sure you can get that critical information navigation cues, phone calls, music, while staying fully aware of that honking car or that cyclist coming up behind you or the conversation happening at the next table. It lets the digital layer integrate without becoming an isolation chamber.
To make that whole open-ear system work and to handle the voice commands, plus the complex process of live translation, they obviously needed some serious input power. 6 microphones, you said. Why so many? Why not just 1 or 2?
6 total microphones. It's a full array. And this isn't overkill. It's essential for getting accurate functionality in the real world. Think of it like a spatial audio bubble.
Okay.
In a noisy environment, 2 microphones can't isolate your voice reliably.
Yeah.
But 6 microphones let the processing unit triangulate where your voice is coming from, effectively filtering out all the directional noise.
So if I'm in a loud restaurant, the 6 mics can really isolate my commands. I have glasses, take a photo from the loud conversation happening at the table 2 feet away.
That is precisely the function of that advanced array. It uses algorithms for noise cancellation and spatial audio processing to make sure the computer understands what you're saying versus just the general background noise.
And for translation, I assume?
For the live translation feature, the array also has to be able to accurately capture and isolate speech in multiple languages at the same time, making sure the input is clean enough for the translation engine to work instantly. It's the engine that powers the whole subtle control system when the neural band isn't being used.
6 mics, 12MP camera, discrete display. We are packing some serious processing power into a device that looks like a normal accessory. And that brings us, inevitably, to the Achilles heel of all mobile tech power: battery life.
Ah, yes. The one physical constraint that you just can't negotiate. The glasses have to stay lightweight and stylish to be socially acceptable.
Right.
That means there's only a tiny amount of space inside for batteries, and the specs reflect that.
Yeah.
Approximately 6 hours of active use on a single charge.
6 hours? I can get through a meeting and maybe my commute, but if the grand vision is to get rid of the cell phone entirely, 6 hours just won't cut it for a full day of heavy use, especially if I'm running navigation, translation, and maybe recording video.
You're absolutely right. 6 hours of active use is a solid technical achievement for the size, but it immediately makes you dependent on the charging case. That's why the second number is so important. When you combine it with the power stored in the charger case, the total usage time jumps up to 30 hours.
Okay, that 30-hour number brings it much closer to practical all-day usability. It kind of redefines the charging case from just a protective accessory to an essential daily power reservoir.
It does.
It means the user is expected to dock the glasses in the case multiple times throughout the day, maybe when they're sitting down or commuting.
It's a necessary trade-off. They couldn't make the glasses thicker or heavier without killing comfort and adoption, so they externalized the bulk of the power supply into the case. It perfectly highlights the physical engineering constraints of wearable tech. You can make a smartphone massive to house a huge battery, but stylish glasses don't have that luxury.
So the case is basically mandatory for life in the face computing ecosystem.
It shows that while the digital boundary has moved onto our faces, the physical boundary is still very much defined by a lithium-ion battery constraint.
So we've seen the optical breakthroughs, the revolutionary control system of the neural band, and the powerful hardware that supports it all. This technology is incredibly imminent. It's not some 10-year projection. The U.S. availability is set for September 30th, 2025, with other countries expected to see the launch sometime in 2026.
That near-term timeline really solidifies this device as a true bridge product. This isn't vaporware. This is the physical reality of that intermediate step. And if it succeeds, the implications they're vast.
Let's talk about that grand vision again. What happens if this intermediate step actually works?
Well, the ultimate goal is the complete dissolution of the need for a separate cell phone. This technology is a concrete step toward smart glasses working independently. A wearable computer that is fully severing its philosophical and technical dependency on the phone in your pocket. I mean, if your glasses can display messages, navigate, translate the world, take calls with 6 mics, and capture content with a 12MP camera, all controlled by a subtle muscle twitch, then the phone becomes an accessory, maybe a server in your bag or just a charging brick for the neural band.
So the phone goes back to just being a cellular antenna rather than the dominant interface? That is a massive shift. But for that dream to become reality, we have to talk about the critical, non-negotiable hurdles that have to be overcome for mass adoption. This is the moment for some reflective skepticism.
There are 3 hurdles that, if they're not solved, will immediately relegate this tech to a niche gadget market.
Give me number 1, which you touched on earlier, but let's really expand on it.
Comfort. I cannot stress this enough. If the glasses feel heavy, if they pinch your nose, cause discomfort behind the ears, or, crucially, if they heat up during use, they will fail.
Absolutely.
The engineering has to make them feel indistinguishable from a standard stylish pair of Ray-Bans. While the hardware is impressive, Maintaining comfort through a full 6-hour active battery cycle, especially in different climates, is a really difficult physical challenge. Our faces and skin are incredibly sensitive. If they aren't comfortable, people will just go back to their phone and the glasses will stay in the case.
That makes perfect practical sense. If they're irritating, the whole ambient information layer ceases to be ambient and just becomes annoying. Now, the second challenge is maybe the biggest, most existential threat to mass adoption, which is privacy. We talked about the Google Glass failure. How does Meta navigate that social contract with a 12MP camera and 6 active microphones?
This is the tightrope walk. The device is always listening and always capable of recording everything its user sees and hears in public. The societal implications are immense. People already distrust phones in public. Putting this tech on the face, the most intimate and observed part of the body, raises immediate public alarm about constant surveillance.
And the burden of proof is on Meta to show that the recording is only happening when the user explicitly intends it. So how do they address that public perception?
They absolutely need robust, visible indicators. The predecessor had a small LED light, but it has to be bright, unmistakable, and legally mandated that it function when the camera or microphones are active for recording.
Right.
If people feel like they're constantly being filmed, adoption will stall because of instant social friction. The success of face computing depends entirely on societal acceptance and establishing clear, observable social norms for when recording is and is not happening.
So if that little light fails, the whole ecosystem fails. It moves the surveillance question from our pockets to our vision, and that fundamentally changes the social contract of public space. What's the third, final challenge?
Battery performance.
Yeah.
While the 30 hours with the case sounds good, the active 6-hour limit is still a hard constraint on independence.
Yeah.
If this device is going to truly eliminate the need for a phone, it needs to handle a standard 8 to 12-hour workday of heavy active use without needing a dock break. People expect their primary computer to last until they go to sleep.
A good point.
Until they can double or triple that 6-hour active lifespan within the existing form factor, the glasses remain dependent on that charging case friction. And that dependency will cause a lot of people to just default back to the reliability of their bigger, longer-lasting smartphone.
So if they solve comfort making them feel invisible, if they navigate the privacy tightrope making them socially acceptable, and if they extend that active battery life making them reliably independent, then this shift to face computing becomes irreversible. And this specific device, the Meta Ray-Ban display, is the first viable, socially acceptable bridge to that future.
It is the first major consumer step where the visual interface is literally worn, moving us past relying only on voice output to relying on integrated visual input for ambient information. It's the moment the digital world starts ghosting information right into our reality.
And this brings us to the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to kind of mull over long after this deep dive ends. We talked about the neural band, which translates your silent preparatory muscle twitches your intent into digital commands.
Right.
If your computer is literally on your face, reading those subtle signals, translating the world instantly, and feeding you real-time data right into your periphery, we have to ask, what is the new boundary between the digital self and the physical world?
When your intentions are immediately translated into digital commands, are your thoughts partially outsourced to the machine? Are we creating a layer of computing that is so integrated into our physical presence that we can no longer distinguish between the input and the internal thought? It's a profound question about the nature of human-computer integration and autonomy.
Absolutely. We are watching the digital world move onto our faces, and the way we deal with information overload is about to fundamentally change when that data is integrated visually rather than requiring a separate device we have to physically pick up and surrender to.
The success of this technology isn't just about the specs, but about whether society accepts computing moving from the hand, which you can put down and ignore, to the face, which is inherently always on. That is the critical test of the next decade.
A fascinating and slightly unnerving future awaits. Thank you for sharing your sources and joining us as we deep dived into the cutting edge of face computing and the subtle art of the digital ghost display.
It was a pleasure exploring this essential bridge technology.
Until next time, keep looking up and maybe watch your twitches carefully.